This is QTV News coming from our studios on Kairaba Avenue, and I am Andy Kerma. Thanks for joining us. Here are the main news headlines. The Ministry of Health and partners commenced a 3-day annual joint review on the achievements, challenges and overall performance of the health sector for 2022. The National Assembly, in collaboration with the Ministry of Justice, kick-started a 2-day training course on legislative drafting to boost the capacity of staff and parliamentary officials. The Secretary General and Party Leader of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, PDOIS, on Thursday called for a Public-Private Partnership Act that will protect national interests. 14 African journalists, including QTV's Aliou Cisse, selected by the U.S. State Department's Foreign Press Centers through the U.S. embassies, have concluded an international reporting tour in the U.S. In international news, 2 people were killed and 5 wounded when an attacker hurled a petrol bomb on a bus in Dakar on Tuesday. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News and I am Andy Kerma. Well, those were the headlines, and now a look at the stories in detail. The Ministry of Health and partners commenced a 3-day annual joint review at the Sir Dawda Conference Center in Bijilo on Wednesday. As Lolly M. Kamara reports, the meeting reflects on the achievements, challenges and overall performance of the health sector for 2022.
Health personnel, government ministries, key implementing agencies and international development partners, among other health sector stakeholders, are gathered for this 3-day review. Officials say the meeting is significant because it provides an opportunity to review progress made over the past year and identify issues to be addressed to improve performance of various programs at the ministry. Mohamed Lamin Jaite, Permanent Secretary 1 at the Ministry of Health, on behalf of the ministry, expressed gratitude to all those that have worked hard to make the event happen. He called on participants to add their invaluable inputs to enrich the progress going forward. Dr. Momodu Gassama, WHO rep, while reaffirming WHO's continuing support to Gambia's health sector, commended the officials of MOH for a laudable initiative. He reveals that in the latest report published by the Integrated African Health Observatory in collaboration with World Health Organization, out of 43 countries listed, 33, including the Gambia, scored over 60% for giving quality service in the Health Performance Index.
And the Gambia, I'm pleased, not only as a WHO staff, but I'm pleased the Gambia has scored 62% for quality. And that 62% for quality is the same as Senegal. Interestingly, Senegal also scored the same 62%. So these are the things we need to note, and this is 2022. So your leadership again, you have contributed a lot. Thank you very much for Honorable Minister. These are the things. So the health sector here, despite all the hurdles, we are doing well.
Dr. Ahmadu Lamin Samate, Gambia's Minister of Health, stated that this annual health sector review represents a critical milestone in their journey towards ensuring equitable access to health care and achieving universal health coverage in the Gambia.
The Gambia's journey towards universal health coverage is challenging, but it is also a journey filled with hope and determination. It requires cooperation, collaboration, and a shared vision among stakeholders. As we gather here today, we must reflect on our progress, acknowledge our achievements, and recognize the areas where we need further attention to be paid to. Our commitment to equitable access to national health insurance is a testimony of our resolve to transform the healthcare landscape of the Gambia.
According to Minister Samate, despite some challenges, significant achievements were also made, and among them, the successful launching of the electronic civil registration and vital statistics, development and approval of the national health sector policy, construction of new health facilities in some parts of the country, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. He urged the participants to give their all, as the results of this meeting will help shape the health outcomes of future generations. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
The National Assembly, in collaboration with the Ministry of Justice, kick-started a two-day training course on legislative drafting to boost the capacity of staff and parliamentary officials to support elected representatives in their multifaceted roles. Lena E. Agbenyiba reports.
This two-day training initiative is implemented by the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, International IDEA, and funded by the European Union under the Consolidating Democratic Dispensation in the Gambia project, aimed to contribute to the consolidation of a participatory, inclusive and human rights-based transition in the Gambia. The training represents a significant step towards further strengthening the Gambia's legislative processes and democratic foundations. Enya Brown, the European Union representative, acknowledged the training's significance in the Gambia's legislative process.
The commencement of this initiative, I'm pleased to say, is a result of a dialogue and collaborative effort with our Gambian stakeholders. The decision to focus on the legislative drafting was born out of these insights. And the timing couldn't be more fitting, with the Gambia presently engaged in vital legal reforms, including the constitutional reform.
Momodu Esise, the clerk of the National Assembly, emphasized the importance of empowering staff to provide competent and effective support to National Assembly members.
Such capacity building support will surely, among others, strengthen the Assembly's mandate in public scrutiny, legislation, and monitoring of government excesses and conduct in governance. This is because, like any other organization, in the case of democratic institutions too, officers and staff working in the legislature require training and exposure to acquaint themselves with the latest developments so that they can assist elected members to perform their mandate effectively and efficiently.
Hussein Tamasi, the Gambia Solicitor General, urged participants to maximize the training's potential to bring about proper legislative reforms.
I extend our appreciation to all the participants for their commitment and enthusiasm. Your contributions are essential to the success of this training and ultimately to the success of Gambia's transitional constitutional reform. Let us work together with determination, resilience, and a shared vision to create a constitution that will shape the destiny of our beloved country for generations to come.
The Consolidating Democratic Dispensation in the Gambia Code project complements various ongoing initiatives by international partners aimed at consolidating the Gambia's democracy. Reporting for QTV News, I am Lena E. Gwenyiba.
The Secretary General and party leader of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, PDOIS, on Thursday called for a Public-Private Partnership Act that will protect national interests. He was speaking at a press conference which addressed various subjects, including the controversial Senegambia Bridge deal. Ansumana Esonyasi has more.
This engagement with the media is to brief the public on, among other things, some of the resolutions and recommendations passed at the party's recent Congress, the highlight of which includes the importance of a free media, sovereign citizens who can independently think for themselves and participate meaningfully in national development, and the duty of party supporters to enlightening the public on issues of national interest. Weighing in on the controversial Senegambia Bridge deal recently signed by government, the veteran politician argued that the Constitution is very clear on the procedures for signing such agreements, and went on to suggest that perhaps the ministry needed to initiate a performance audit and seek Parliament's approval before entering such deals.
Go and sign, negotiate on our behalf, but bring it to the National Assembly so that they will check whether it is in the interest of the country. And it says after the National Assembly subject that particular agreement to scrutiny, then the other powers come.
Furthermore, Mr. Sala calls for the enactment of legislation that will promote private local investors, adding that a knowledge-based governance and democratic system is essential for economic growth.
If we're talking about self-reliant development, then a government that is interested in self-reliant development will first assess the national capacity. Your first partners would be the Gambian private sector. They call that local content. So indigenous content is important to find out what is available financially.
On the emergence of military takeovers in the region, especially the situation in Niger, ECOWAS pronouncements on the possibility of military intervention to reinstate the deposed President Bazoum, and the reaction of countries such as Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea, who are all currently led by military juntas, Khalifa Sara says there is a need for restraint and dialogue, adding that the supreme interest of the people of Niger should be considered, and he reiterated his call for dialogue instead.
Now, essentially, the actions of ECOWAS is what the protocols you have, agreements, that's what you implement. But the question is, will use of force ultimately change what is happening in Niger? They must have experts looking at that. What happened in the Gambia was not just an ordinary ECOWAS force threatening to come and come. That was not the situation. Gambia is different from every other country, and each country has a situation that should be understood, because the objective is not just to act for the sake of acting. The objective is to achieve results.
Commenting on the political situation in Senegal, the Doi leader called on President Sall to reconsider his decision to ban Ousmane Sonko's Pastef party. He says it is not in the interest of the country and would leave a scar on Sall's legacy. Meanwhile, on his expressed interest to hand over the party's leadership at their recent Congress, the veteran politician revealed that the public would be informed accordingly once the decision is finalized at party level. Ansman Esonyasi for KTV News.
We will now go for a commercial break. When we return, we have more local and international news stories. Stay tuned.
The National Roads Authority, the implementing agency for the Barting-Harding Highway Widening Project, in collaboration with the Ministry of Works, the contractors, Areski, the consultant, South Consult, Gamtech GV, OIC Gambia, and partners, seek the support of the public in the implementation of the project as Phase 1 nears completion. Drivers are strongly advised to exercise caution, adhere to speed limits and respect traffic diversions. Pedestrians and vendors are urged to maintain a safe distance from the road. The authority reminds the public that the right-of-way remains at 40 meters from the road, center line on both sides. Property owners are therefore urged to respect reserved allocation and refrain from encroachment. The understanding and cooperation of the public are highly solicited. This announcement is brought to you by the National Roads Authority.
No more leakage, cracks, or a broken roof? Batimat's got you covered. With its wide range of waterproofing products, from roofing systems, fling-cut, and sealants, from the most trusted and reliable international brands, all to make your life easier. Batimat, your trusted partner.
Batimat, welcome home.
Welcome back. This is QTV News. Now let's take a look at news outside the country. 14 African journalists selected by the U.S. State Department's foreign press centers through the U.S. embassies have concluded an international reporting tour in the U.S. QTV's Aliou Cisse reports from Washington, D.C.
The 10-day reporting tour is a follow-up to the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in December 2022. The tour began in the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C., and continued to Memphis in Tennessee and Missoula in Montana. With the theme of the tour focusing on youth, who are the future leaders, the reporting tour helped journalists understand how youth support democratic development, taking part in civic engagement, and advocating social justice in the United States. Journalists also explored what social justice, crisis climate, and democracy in action look like in America, and to further expand the understanding of the U.S. cultural diversity, civic engagement, and values. Clement Carlos from Mozambique, Seligan Peterson from Namibia, and Salif Kamara from Sierra Leone, respectively, shared their impressions of the tour and what message they will take home.
This has been the peak of my professional life as a journalist. I've got 11 years of experience, and I'd never been invited by a foreign government, as it is. I mean, the U.S. government gave us such an opportunity, and to me, it has really been wonderful. I did learn a lot. I met wonderful people, both from the U.S. and my colleagues from the continent of Africa. So the lessons I'm taking home are, very interesting ones. I did learn about, civic activism in the U.S., how people use their own resources and their own time to actually fight for the rights of the majority, or maybe the minority, but doing it selflessly. So to me, that means a lot. Okay, it's a lesson in its own because I'm an activist back home. But when you come to the U.S. and you just see how deep this engagement was, and the sacrifice, the history that is attached to it, it's just wonderful.
I think for me it's a bit of twofold. Number one is you never know what you have until you don't have it. And I think being in the US and the idea and the reporting that you always see about the US, we've been discussing with the colleagues, and I feel like I just see one underlining issue is sort of the image that has been put out about the US. I think it's a very well-oiled public relations machine, because when it comes down to social issues, we all have the social issues. That for me is number one.
But the aim of the tour was especially Africa, US-Africa relationship, and watching from everything that we have experienced, and one message that I'm going with in my country and for all African countries is that we can get all the aid that we need from external sources, but if our leaders do not sacrifice to spend and invest in our countries, nobody will build Africa for us.
In what started as a virtual conversation to meeting in person, these journalists, who were selected from among many after a rigorous selection process, now have a better understanding of U.S. foreign policy, social issues, and its institutional setup and democratic working. It is hoped that the U.S. State Department foreign press centers through the U.S. embassies will continue to provide such unique opportunities to more African journalists. Reporting for QTV News from Washington, D.C. in the United States, I am Aliou Cissé.
Still on international news, 2 people were killed and 5 wounded when an attacker hurled a petrol bomb on a bus in Dakar on Tuesday, the Interior Minister said. Mamadou Gajaga takes a look at the story.
2 people were killed and 5 injured when an attacker threw a petrol bomb on a bus in Senegal's capital, Dakar, on Tuesday, according to the country's Interior Minister. The incident came at a time when political tension in Senegal is high. The bus was traveling from the suburbs to the center of Dakar when it was blocked by a group of people. Bus driver Abdoulaye Diop, who was hurt in the attack, told an AFP journalist at the scene that a group of hooded youth boarded the bus and insulted him, while one lit the bomb and threw it. Interior Minister Antoine Felix Abdoulaye Diome said the attackers also robbed passengers of their money and mobile phones. We have been informed by the gendarmerie and the fire brigade that 7 hooded individuals wrested control of a public transport bus, he said, standing beside the burnt-out vehicle. 2 people were killed and 5 seriously injured, Diop said in a footage shared on social media. What a criminal act, what an inhumane act, to throw a Molotov cocktail in a bus carrying Senegalese people, he said, promising the culprits would be found and arrested. According to the bus company manager, Mbaye Amar, demonstrators or bandits were behind the petrol bombing. However, Minister Diome described it as a terrorist attack and declined to link it to protest gripping Senegal after opposition politician Ousmane Sonko was indicted on a fresh barrage of charges and his party dissolved, harming his presidential plans. Repeated unrest during Ousmane Sonko's standoff with the authorities in 2021 has seen riots, looting, and on several occasions, attacks on public transport. Sonko was recently arrested, his party banned for inciting violence. Although more than 20 people have died during the protest, no one is linking the political situation to what is being viewed by many in Senegal as a worrying and unusual crime. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
As Niger observes its Independence Day on August 3rd, reports from Niamey reveal crowds gathering to express support for the military rulers who recently deposed the country's elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, last week. Lena E. Igwenyiba tells us more.
Niger commemorates its 63rd year of independence in the midst of a serious threat to its democracy. The capital, Niamey, witnessed hundreds of protesters taking to the streets to celebrate the nation's liberation from French colonial rule. However, the occasion also became an opportunity for sympathizers of the coup plotters to voice their support for the recent coup d'etat that removed President Mohamed Bazoum from power. Following the coup, Mohamed Bazoum was held by the military, and General Abdurrahman Chiani, head of Niger's presidential guard, was announced as the head of a transitional government in the West African country. African leaders of the sub-regional bloc, ECOWAS, gave the junta 1 week to relinquish power or face potential force and financial sanctions.
In the event the authorities' demands are not met within 1 week, take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
Despite a history of coups, Mr. Bazoum's election as president in 2021 had raised hopes for democratic path in Niger. Nevertheless, the recent events have cast a shadow over the country's progress. U.S. President Biden issued a statement on the occasion of Niger's Independence Day, expressing the United States' solidarity with the Nigerian people and their decades-long partnership rooted in shared democratic values and support for civilian-led governance. The statement emphasized that the Nigerian people have the right to choose their leaders through free and fair elections, which must be respected. President Biden also called for the immediate release of President Bazoum and his family, along with the preservation of Niger's hard-earned democracy. Reporting for QTV News, I am Lena E. Gwenyeba.
Before we end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. The Ministry of Health and Partners commenced a 3-day annual joint health review on the achievements, challenges and overall performance of the sector for 2022. The National Assembly, in collaboration with the Ministry of Justice, kick-started a 2-day training course on legislative drafting to boost the capacity of staff and parliamentary officials. The Secretary General and Party Leader of the People's Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism, PDOIS, on Thursday called for the enactment of a Public-Private Partnership Act that will protect national interest. 14 African journalists, including QTV's Aliou Cisse, selected by the U.S. State Department's Foreign Press Centers to the U.S. embassies, have concluded an international reporting tour in the U.S. In international news, 2 people were killed and 5 wounded when an attacker hurled a petrol bomb on a bus in Dakar on Tuesday. Well, folks, that's all we have for you in this bulletin, but please don't forget to get interactive with us on social media by following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, Twitter at QTV Gambia. Join us at 10 p.m. for another news bulletin. Thanks for watching.